As a Republican tax reform bill edges closer to reality, one senator is fighting for loophole transparency. Joining us now, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. We were adding up with Eamon earlier, Senator, the things that you guys are saddled with between now and the end of the year. It's pretty daunting. Let's start with one of what we just talked about. With this budget deal, is the vote in the bag yet, do you think?
I think on the budget deal, it's in the bag, but whether or not we can get tax reform, we're going to see over the next couple of months. I certainly hope so.
What would be the stumbling block with tax reform that you see, and we don't need to name names on who wouldn't like it, but and also, what do you think the primary benefit that might bring everybody on board is? What do you think is the one thing that survives that everyone will vote a thumbs up for?
Well, I think that we've got to bring the corporate rate down. Chuck Schumer has even voiced support for that in the past. Democrats and Republicans realize that in order to be competitive, we've got to bring the corporate rate down. The biggest stumbling block, frankly, is going to be to do actual reform and not just a tax cut. And reform involves broadening the base. And that involves getting rid of some very popular credits and deductions and loopholes. When you add all of the credits, deductions, and loopholes, the tax preferences in our tax code, it equals more than our entire discretionary budget. It's about $1.25 trillion over 10 years. So I'm sorry, a year. And so that's what's going to be difficult, because every credit, deduction, loophole out there has a constituency. And believe me, they're going to be lobbying Washington in the next couple of months.
Do you think 20 is the final number, or do you think it's 22 or 23? Because do you believe 20 that the president won't move from that, or?
I think it'll be between 25 and 20. I'd say 22, 23 is more realistic. 22,
23 is more realistic. But we'll come back to tax reform. But what about the other? Do you think DACA gets done? Do you think that something with the subsidies for Obamacare gets done? Do you think the Iran deal? Do you think that gets done by the end of the year? Is it possible to do all this stuff in this Senate?
There's a lot on the plate. I doubt that we'll get through all of that. I certainly hope that we get DACA done. That's been we've been needing to do that for a long time, but now we have a deadline. That's a difference. That deadline, I think, is end of February, early March, but we really ought to get it done as part of the omnibus bill that we do later this year. I think that if we do something close to the DREAM Act, the House has something called the RAC Act, and combine that with some border security measures like the House has already passed, the $1.6 billion. I've introduced that as a bill, so you have border security plus DACA, and I think that's probably the sweet spot that we can work with.
Yesterday, I'm sure you saw Secretary Mnuchin. I thought he was pretty honest and fairly straightforward, talking about how difficult it is to cut taxes if you're not going to cut taxes on the people that pay taxes. Right. But that's going to be demagogued by Democrats in terms of being something for the rich. So, but if you've got the top 10% pay 70% of the taxes, I mean, to make any type of to have any type of effect, they may end up not paying as much. Are you going to? Do you think you've got any Republicans that are going to be able to withstand the PR hit from that?
Oh, it's obviously a tough political sell, but when you do the arithmetic, you find what you just quoted. A small percentage of taxpayers pay a lot of the federal income tax. Now, that's not to say Americans aren't paying taxes, or most Americans, or almost all Americans. It's just in different forms in the federal income tax. Yep. But it's a difficult political sell. But what I'm hoping is that we get some actual reform that lowers the rate and broadens the base. We desperately need to do that, and that's going to be difficult. I put out a report a couple of weeks ago talking about these loopholes and deductions, and I just focused on one, alpacas, just as an example. Alpacas under the tax code are treated like livestock, even though it's just kind of an exotic pet. But that's just about a $10 million deduction overall. But I can tell you, the alpaca lobby came after me, for that small little deduction.